Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to The Juggle is Real. I'm Andryanna, and today we are talking about something that so many of us are quietly struggling with, Canadians especially. We're talking about the pressure of rising living costs, heavier mortgages, and this constant feeling that you should somehow be doing more and saving more and preparing more, especially as we head into the holidays when financial stress always seems to feel heavier and get louder. My guest today is someone who has made it his mission to change that narrative, and I'm so grateful for it. I'm joined by Robinson Smith. He is the founder and CEO of Smith Manoeuvre Services Corp and Smith Consulting Group Limited, and the second generation leader of a wealth building strategy that has helped thousands of Canadian homeowners reduce their tax burden, eliminate non-deductible debt faster, and invest for their future without needing extra monthly cash. Yes, you heard that right. Without needing more money every month. Praise be. So, if you're a parent listening and you're maybe at the carpool line or doing dance drop off or in between hockey practices, this might feel like the most hopeful sentence you've heard all year. I know it's music to my ears. Robinson's book, Master Your Mortgage for Financial Freedom, became a bestseller in 22 Amazon categories, and for good reason. He has a gift for breaking down complex financial ideas into clear, doable steps that empower everyday people, especially Canadians, not just the ultra wealthy. And he wants us to build real financial security. In today's conversation, we talk about why so many families feel behind, how our tax system impacts the average homeowner, simple mindset shifts that can remove financial shame, how turning your mortgage into something that supports your long-term goals, and how to approach the holidays with more confidence, more intention, and less pressure to overspend. This is one of those conversations that gives you perspective, more clarity, and the permission to breathe a little lighter. It might just change the way you think about your money, your mortgage, and your future. So if that sounds good, let's dive right in. This is the Juggle is Real podcast. I hope you feel seen, that you realize your worth, lighten your load, and prioritize your own needs. As we hear from leading experts and well-known faces in the wellness, entrepreneurship, education, and motherhood space, I hope you gain insights, proven practices, and learn actionable tools to help you enjoy the juggle of work, family, and everything in between with a little less stress and a lot more ease, joy, and fun. Most of all, I hope you find what you need to simplify, streamline, and supercharge your own journey of better balance and self-love. Are you with me? Let's get started. This episode of The Juggle is Real is supported by HomeSense. You know that moment every year when the temperature drops 1 single degree and suddenly you are ready to live your best cozy life? Because same over here. I'm officially entering my cozy era, and honestly, it is one of my favorite parts of getting into winter because life gets busier and the days get darker, and I just want my home to feel like a soft place to land after all the things. And that is why I love HomeSense. They make it so easy to add those warm, comfy layers at prices that actually make sense. No full redesign, no guilt, and no hours spent shopping around. I've been layering in the coziest throws, plush, knit, woven, and even seasonal motifs. And the quality is always so good. Things like hand-woven knits, made in Portugal fabrics, and plush high-end dupe blankets. I am telling you, adding just one just instantly changes a space. So you can use them wrapped around your shoulders for a quick me moment, draped over the couch for movie night, tossed on your bed for a pop of color or texture, and my new favorite, gifting them. Seriously, a throw is the perfect mix of thoughtful and practical and perfectly priced present. It works for everyone. I'm talking teachers, is a hostess gift, teens, grandparents, and even that one person who already has everything. So if you're ready to make your home feel extra warm and welcoming, or you're starting your holiday gifting list, head to your local HomeSense and get inspired. Because cozy doesn't have to be complicated, and it definitely doesn't have to break the bank. Head to your nearest HomeSense to find your cozy today. Now let's get back to the episode. Robinson Smith, welcome to The Juggle is Real. How are you doing?
I'm very well. Thank you, Andryanna. Thank you for having me.
This conversation is going to be so supportive for so many of us, and I am one of the people on that list. I recently moved, and so we just went through the whole thing about mortgage and all of the things, and we've moved into a larger mortgage, and so I'm so keen on learning how we can turn this investment into something more than just a debt. So I'm so grateful that you're spending some time with us. Can you start by just sharing a little bit more about who you are and why you're doing what you're doing?
Sure. I am a former investment advisor. I was an investment advisor for a dozen years, and I was putting my clients into the strategy called the Smith Maneuver exclusively. So, well over 500 families. And I learned from the best because my father, I worked alongside him. We had our own separate practices, but my father, Fraser, was the pioneer of the Smith Maneuver, Fraser Smith, the Smith Maneuver. So yeah, I learned from the best on how this strategy can help Canadian homeowners really improve their financial situation.
I feel like so many of us and so many families are feeling such a squeeze. Every time you turn on the news or you look at your bank statement, you're seeing higher costs. A lot of us are moving into bigger mortgages. Of course, we've got the holidays and all the spending pressures there. What are you hearing most from Canadians about where their financial overwhelm comes from?
We are hearing financial overwhelm coming from all different sides. We Canadians are consistently within the five highest tax-paying citizenry on the planet. Taxation is a big one. We pay, close to half, on average, close to half of our total income goes to taxes. So that's federal tax, provincial, municipal, tax at the pump, tax at the grocery store, everywhere. And because that's an average, that means some of us are spending more than half of our income in taxes. And the traditional metric of how much you should be spending on your mortgage as a percentage of your total income, we are spending more than that. So we got all this
Mm.
tax to pay. We've got really high, for us fortunate homeowners, we got really high mortgage payments. And then, of course, just the cost of living just keeps on going up, and wage and salary increases. They're not keeping pace, and so we are getting squeezed from all different sides.
Your father, you mentioned Fraser. He created this strategy back in the 1980s, and because he noticed that only the wealthiest Canadians were benefiting from what were tax deductible mortgages. This is totally new to me. So I would love for you to share how he was sort of reframing the mortgage and why do we tend to see our mortgage as this heavy burden? How can we shift our perspective and actually change our long-term financial picture?
Yeah, my dad became an investment advisor, a financial planner back in the mid 80s, and when he did so, he he was looking for something special that he could offer his clients. Why would you want to work with me as your financial planner and not somebody else? And he was a bit of a bulldog, and he decided to read the Tax Act, which, if you're having trouble sleeping at night, just pick up a copy of that.
Yeah.
And so he learned all about taxes. He learned all about mortgages. He learned all about investing, and he put this strategy together to get us at least on an even keel with our American cousins, because the Americans can deduct a good portion of their mortgage interest already. We Canadians can't. We still cannot. And the reason is we go out, we get a down payment together, we work two jobs, we steal from our parents' coin jar they have in the bedroom and beg, borrow, and steal. And we finally get a mortgage. All of this debt, whether it's 300, 800, $1.3 million, all of it is not tax deductible, which is one of the reasons a mortgage is so very expensive in this country. And so dad set out to level the playing field, and he looked at the Tax Act, like I said, and he realized that if we Canadians borrow with the reasonable expectation of generating income, we can deduct the interest. Now, you mentioned the wealthy. The wealthy have been doing this for years. They're not only with their home mortgages, but in every aspect of their lives, because they're fairly well off. They can afford the fancy tax lawyers and accountants to show them these tricks and techniques on how to maximize how much of their income they keep. Your average Canadian, your school teacher, your middle manager, your police officer, we don't have the ability to take advantage of the people who really know all these tricks. And now we do have the ability as Canadian homeowners, because my dad developed a strategy for your average Canadian, your typical Canadian, to level it up so that they can take advantage of the same tax laws that the wealthy and corporations have for years.
So, I mean, this sounds incredible. The listener might be thinking, okay, cool, this sounds great, but my budget's already stretched, or I am someone who does not know a lot about finances, or it might put me to sleep as soon as I start reading about it. Can you talk to us about what the Smith maneuver is? Give it to us in simple terms. I myself, when I see numbers, I kind of just my eyes glaze over. So tell us what this is for those of us, we're juggling our mortgages and childcare, we've got bills and all of these rising costs that you're talking about. Give it to us straight.
Okay, so most Canadians, when they think of the word mortgage, they think of this big lump sum of cash that they're going to have to pay off over the course of 25, 30, 40 years. And that's what a traditional mortgage is, effectively. And as we know, it's very, very expensive. But there's a specific type of mortgage that we can get as Canadian homeowners, which allows us to borrow back the equity that we are creating with our mortgage payments. Because every month when we make a mortgage payment, a lot of that goes to interest, non-deductible
Mm-hmm.
interest. It's gone, bye-bye. That's the price we pay for borrowing the money from the bank. But a portion of that monthly payment does reduce how much we owe on that mortgage. And with this specific type of mortgage, we are able to borrow back whatever we have paid down that month. Now, a lot of Canadians, they have this type of mortgage. They don't know why they have it. The bank mortgage specialist or their mortgage broker put them into this type of mortgage, didn't explain it, didn't train them how to use it effectively. And so they look at their mortgage statement each month and they see the mortgage balance going down, but they also see this line of credit, which is attached to it. The limit is increasing by maybe $1,000 a month. So, oh, look at that. Each month, it looks like I got another $1,000 that I could borrow. They don't know where it's coming from. They don't know what's happening here, but all they see is they got $1,000 of available credit. Now they got 2,000, 3,000, and they figure out quite quickly that's about what a BMW 5 Series costs each month. Fantastic, right? Or they go on
Or a
vacation,
minivan. Yeah.
or a minivan or whatever, or anything. They choose to consume this, and this is why we see so many articles about consumer debt in Canada and how it's a problem. But as I mentioned earlier, if we borrow to invest, we can deduct the interest on that borrowing. So what the strategy says is each month when you're reducing that mortgage balance by $1,000, let's say, and that associated line of credit increases its limit by $1,000, each month you pull that $1,000 out and invest it. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, mixed REITs, real estate, all these different types of investment. And what happens is because we're creating these tax deductions, because we're investing each and every month, at tax time, Revenue Canada says, oh, we took too much off your paycheck every 2 weeks for the past year. We need to send you money back. So we get this big refund. Maybe we've been getting refunds. Now we get bigger refunds. And because this strategy of pay it down, borrow it back to invest on a monthly basis is generating these tax deductions, these tax savings, at year end, when we get a refund, we make an extra payment against this mortgage. And then because it's gone down, we can pull that out to invest as well. And because we're making these extra payments each year, we're out of that expensive non-deductible debt much faster. We're creating an investment portfolio starting now when we're as young as we're ever going to be. And our tax relief gets larger and larger and larger each subsequent year. So we're flipping the script on how Canadians typically have dealt with their mortgage, which is over the course of 25, 30, 40 years, seeing it as just this big, ugly black cloud hanging over them, taking a huge chunk of their paycheck. We're turning that liability into an asset. And we get all these good things that start now simultaneously and increase over the course of time.
This is so good for so many reasons. I mean, of course, if when you can make those lump sum payments, they always tell you, the banks, that you can do this. But like we're talking about, many families just don't have the extra money and the extra cash flow in order to do that. So this strategy is so great because you don't need that extra cash flow. It's not coming from anywhere else. It's coming from what you already have. And I just want to clear up the elephant in the room here, because it seems like if this is such a great strategy, why isn't everyone doing it? Or maybe the listener's thinking this can't be legal. I mean, like, why is this a loophole? How do I not know about this? Talk to us about the common misconceptions that you hear, or the fears that people might have when we're learning about the Smith maneuver. How do we move past that hesitation? Or what do you normally tell people who are like, no, this can't be by the books?
Well, to address that how can this be legal question, we get this a lot. And firstly, it is legal, 100%. If it were not legal, we would not have two best-selling books written about it. This has been a continuous operation by Canadian homeowners for the past 40 years. When I was advising, I had clients, I put clients into the strategy who were police officers, judges, lawyers, and even CRA employees. And in fact, one of the stories my dad used to really like to tell, if anyone would listen, was he was at his office one day, and his receptionist came in, poked her head in, and said, "Fraser, there's two gentlemen here in suits to see you. They don't have a meeting, and they're from the CRA." Dad says, "Get them in, bring them in." So these two gentlemen walked into Dad's office. They're like, "Yeah, we want to hear about this Smith maneuver thing that you're talking about." So Dad got out his yellow pad of paper and his pen, and this is how it works, and this is why it works, and all these sorts of things. He got real excited, as he always did. And he used to say, and at one point, the smaller guy, he leaned forward and said, "Mr. Smith, would this work on an $80,000 mortgage?" Right? And so he never heard from them again, which is all the best endorsement you're going to get from the CRA. But yes, fully legal. It relies on the fundamental principle, as I said earlier, if you borrow to invest with a reasonable expectation of generating income, you can deduct the interest on that borrowing. The wealthy have been doing it for years. Corporations, for years. No, it's the common Canadian, typical Canadian who has a mortgage. They may be doing all right, they may be struggling, but now they have the opportunity to take advantage of the same tax laws as the wealthy, and it doesn't cost them anything on a monthly basis. No additional cash flow on a monthly basis, just using the mortgage payment that they're making anyways.
Well, thank you for clearing that up. I think everyone now, we're all on the same page. Another thing that kind of popped into my head as you were talking about this, because it's something that I would consider, is the portion that you're talking about, the investing. And for someone who might not be as keen on that side of the world, like, what would be involved? We all have so much on our plate. We are so busy. Our schedules are overflowing. How can we actually manage this realistically without taking so much time out of our schedules? Or perhaps we don't have the know-how to even be able to determine what would be the best places to invest these additional funds that we're taking.
Yeah, it's a big step for Canadians who are just struggling to keep their nostrils above the waterline, and who aren't investors, uh, don't have a whole lot of knowledge in that realm. It's a big step to think about taking. But we make it relatively simple because we have a nationwide network of Smith Maneuver certified professionals. So we have trained up mortgage brokers, investment advisors, accountants, CPAs, insurance professionals, realtors, because there's an opportunity you may be able to get into real estate investing when you implement the strategy. So all of the different types of professionals that one would need or want when they're looking at getting into this strategy, maybe refinancing, starting to invest, tax preparation. We've got all these different professionals that know each other because they're in the same network. So your SMCP mortgage broker will work with your investment advisor, your accountant, etc., so that it simplifies this. It's not like the Canadian homeowner now has to say, okay, I read Robinson's book. Now I have to educate my mortgage broker what I need. I have to educate my investment advisor what I might account. We've got people that already know what's going on. So it makes it very, very simple for people who are not used to this world to get in and get going.
So if someone starts now, for instance, Robinson, paint me a picture, like what can the next 5 or 10 years look like in terms of this transformation with our mortgage and our finances?
So the plain Jane Smith maneuver, which is what I described earlier, the the typical results with typical mortgage, today's current environment, we're seeing someone get out of their non-deductible mortgage debt, not in 25 years, but in 22 years, a net worth improvement of between $300,000 and $400,000. And recall, this doesn't require additional cash flow to do this. We're just restructuring that mortgage payment. But we also have accelerators. And for some people who may have additional available monthly cash flow that they can apply to this, maybe they've got a rental property, we've got a number of accelerators that they can implement. One, all 5 of them, maybe 2 or 3 of them. It all depends on their situation. But we are seeing regularly people who do have the ability to implement some of the accelerators. They're out of their non-deductible mortgage debt in 10 years, 8 years, 7 years. Depends on how aggressive they can be or want to be, right? We do have people that get into the strategy and say, I just want to dip my toe in, just do the basic version, see how that goes. If they don't like it, they can unwind it and they just reverse everything. But if they do like it, now they'll throw in some of the accelerators that they have available to them and really start to speed things up. But, like I said, we're seeing in some cases 8-year debt conversion, bad debt to good debt, and, upwards or over $1 million in net worth improvement. The key is, as we already know, the sooner you start investing, the better off you're going to be. The more frequently you keep on investing, the better off you're going to be, right? We've all heard, most likely, it's not timing the market, it's time in the market. And we Canadians typically take this sequential approach to our financial affairs because we've got 2 very important goals. 1, we want to save for retirement. We don't want to have to work forever. 2, we want to get rid of this mortgage. We don't want this mortgage forever, right? And it feels like we're going to. But because of limited resources on a monthly basis, we have to choose which one to do because we can't afford to do both. And if we don't invest each month, absolutely nobody cares. We don't get in trouble. But if we don't make our mortgage payment, someone certainly does care, right? They're going to knock on our door. And so that's what we do. We take all our money that we have available to us and we apply it against this mortgage, spend years paying down this mortgage at the expense of not getting invested. Finally, we're out of this mortgage. Guess what? We've just retired. We're in a tough spot. Why? Because we don't have any mortgage payment anymore. That's great. But we also have no investments. We don't have anything to live off in our retirement. So we're reliant on CPP, OAS, our kids, maybe we have to downsize, sign up for a reverse mortgage, or we don't get to retire at all. But this strategy allows us to start saving now. We're doing both concurrently, paying down the mortgage faster and starting to put money aside for our future.
You said something interesting just in that response. Is you noticed you mentioned good debt versus bad debt, and I think talking about financial literacy, especially around mortgages, is so important for families. Can you walk us through this good debt versus bad debt scenario?
Yeah. So this is when you meet a wealthy person, if you were to tell them, I just paid off my mortgage. I finally paid off my mortgage. It feels so good. The wealthy person is going to say, so you don't have a mortgage? Nope. I'm clear title. You don't have any debt secured to the house? Nope. I'm clear title. Feels great. And they're going to go, whoa, oh, oh, you're sitting on a house worth $1 million. You've got the ability to pull out hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars and put that to work. If you haven't been doing that, all that money that could be working for you has been earning less than 0% because it's not working for you, 0%, but less than 0 because of inflation. The wealthy
Hmm.
people are wealthy because they understand debt and they use debt to their advantage. They do not buy houses or cars with debt. They pay cash. What do they borrow for? They borrow to invest. If I'm going to have debt, I would rather have it deductible and make that work for me. So there's 2 types of debt, good debt and bad debt. And the wealthy understand this very well. Your typical Canadian doesn't. They have had nobody explain it to them. They got their financial advice as they were growing up, first from their parents, who weren't investment advisors, and then from their schoolmates, who weren't investment advisors. And they learned these patterns early on what debt is and what debt isn't, and how to spend money and how not to spend all this. They learned what they learned by watching people, and they cling to it. It's a piece of them, and they grow up into young adulthood, and they hold on to those values and those beliefs. And for many, many Canadians, that hurts their prospects. So the challenge is to get Canadians to understand that there are two types of debt. And it can be a challenge. And some people are just going to say, no, no, not for me. I can't wrap my head around, I can't get comfortable with the fact that I'm going to maintain my mortgage debt, because that's what we're doing. We're maintaining it, but we're turning it from bad to good, but we're still keeping it. And so that's a tough one for a lot of people to get over. The younger generation, not so much, because, I've been at this game for a long time now, 20 years. The, the younger generation has gotten used to debt. They've accepted the likelihood that they're going to have debt until the day they die, right? That's just the way things have gone in Canada. Student debt, car debt, mortgage debt, all of this. And so they've accepted it. Debt, yeah, I'm going to have it forever. Does it feel good? No, but what can I do about it, right? And so the question is, if you're going to have debt, would you like it to be non-tax deductible, or would you like it to be tax deductible? And so it's a bit easier for younger Canadians to wrap their heads around this and get used to the fact that, okay, I am going to have debt, but I'm going to do good things with my debt. I'm not going to let it suck the wealth out of my family.
You've made me think of the popular book Rich Dad Poor Dad, in how you were talking about, how we've been conditioned, or what we grew up learning, and how society is ingrained, save, save, save for retirement, or these ways that perhaps aren't actually moving the needle forward, but we're just slowly getting into further and further debt, especially with things like inflation. So something that I learned from that book was, the investment potential. And my husband and I, we do have a rental property, and so that has been a great source of being able to write off that tax deductible debt. But I didn't quite realize that we could do this for our primary mortgage, for our main our investment. And the
Right.
author of that book, and his name is escaping me, and it's hard to say
Kiyosaki.
anyway. There you go. He actually says in his book, like, your home is not an investment, and that is not a strategy unto itself. So I appreciate that while his book does not explain the Smith maneuver in any way, it sort of gives you those initial inklings of, like, well, just having a mortgage unto itself is not making you any money. And yes, I guess at the end of however long, if you live in your house for a long time, you might be able to turn a profit perhaps, but it's not making you money for that entire length of time that you're
Right.
living there. So perhaps this can support the listener in understanding this process a little bit more. But, we're going into the holiday season, and I'd like to get your take on that in a minute. But for those of us who want to start feeling more secure, we're heading into another new year. What would be a simple first step that we can take to start understanding and optimizing our mortgage?
Well, many of the listeners, and you know who you are, come January 1st, you're going to have a resolution to take control of your personal finances, just
Yeah.
like you've likely done every year, listener. Um, but before you get to January 1st, why don't you buy yourself your own Christmas present? My book is called Master Your Mortgage for Financial Freedom. If you don't want to buy it, I'm not here to sell it to you. If you don't want to buy it, go to the library and check it out for free. But that is step number one. Um, is understanding. We're not obviously not going to get through everything today, but the book goes into some detail about why Canadians need it, how it works, why it works, uh, what does it look like as you're going through the process, what are the end results, and all these different things. And so it will give the reader a great deal of comfort as to what it is, what we're talking about here. And with that comfort, they can make the decision, yes, it is probably for me. No, it's probably not for me, and go from there. And then if there is some interest, we can connect you with our Smith Maneuver certified professionals for more detail. And we've got a lot of resources available, of course. So that is step number one. But you don't get any change unless you take action, right?
Hmm.
And the first step here is to learn more about this. If you're a Canadian homeowner or soon to be, um, learn about it and then give an answer. There's far too Canadians out there who are taking an active interest in their personal finances, and they are depriving themselves of choice to say yes or no to something that may resonate with them or may not. But without the knowledge, you don't have the opportunity to say yes to something. So
Yeah, the more you know, the better you can do. So the book's called Master Your Mortgage for Financial Freedom. It is available on Amazon or your local public library. Um, Most of the listeners are going to be Canadian, but there's a good percentage of people who are listening who are not from Canada. Any advice that you can give them, perhaps not necessarily with the Smith maneuver, but for them to increase their own financial literacy, learn more about the ins and outs of their own mortgages and how the banks are working in the countries that they're living in?
well, I think it just goes back to taking an active interest in listening to podcasts and reading books, and people who are listening to you, Andryanna, are already doing that. Um, they are, you know, taking action in their lives, regardless of where they feel they need to improve. It really is just educating yourself and talking to other people and talking to people who have already made it. Um, we tend to, as humans, surround ourselves with people who are like us,
Hmm.
um, and so we stay at that level, or we hover up a little bit down, a little bit up every once in a while. But stepping out of that comfort zone by glomming on to someone who's already been there and done what you're looking to do is a good way to level up.
Absolutely. And now, as we head into this holiday season, we know that our spending expectations and our financial guilt is going through the roof. We want to buy all the things. We want to give our families the most magical time. Um, Not necessarily mortgage related, but do you have any advice for what families can be doing right now to feel more confident and less overwhelmed during this very expensive season?
My um, I've been involved with the Smith Maneuver for 20 years, but I was an investment advisor for 12 of those years before I sold my book of business to write my book and start this national network of trained professionals. Um, a lot of the people that I met who were prospective clients, who became clients, were quite nervous or scared about diving into their personal finances. And it's probably one of the main reasons why we don't is I don't want to know how bad a position I'm in. I'll sleep better at night, sort of not
Yeah,
thinking about
plead
it
the
at all.
fifth. Yeah.
Yeah. But I also saw a lot of these people who they came in, they admitted they were nervous, they were embarrassed or scared or whatever to really take a deep dive into their personal finances. Once we did, once we said, okay, here's where you are. It's not where you wanted to be at this point in life, but here's where you want to go, and here's how we're going to get you there. And it's a feeling of control. They know where they are. They know they have a plan, and that's when you start sleeping better at night, right? Versus not knowing where you are and trying to not even think about it. There's power in knowing where you are and knowing how you're going to get to where you want to be, but it takes some guts.
And we've all got to start somewhere, right? So
Yeah.
knowing the things is that first step. The awareness is always the first step. Robinson, it's been such a pleasure to chat with you. I want to thank your father for his foresight and thank you for expanding this incredible strategy and bringing it to so many households. Where can the listener find you to learn more or perhaps to connect with someone in your network so that they can start building their wealth and move from that average into what they've always wanted to?
Yeah, our website is smithman.ca. Uh, we abbreviated Maneuver because everybody spells it wrong, even myself every once in a
It's
while.
the
So,
E and what? Yeah.
so smithman.ca. We got a lot of stuff on there. You can connect with our SMCPs local to you. So that's the first place to start. You can get a copy of my book there. But like I said, if you don't want to buy the book, go to the library. That's step number one, is reading up on it. And please do not trust the internet when you're looking for information. It's a complete rat's nest of misinformation. So smithman.ca is the place to start.
Well, thank you so much. I am so interested. I will definitely be learning more and checking it all out. So thanks so much for spending some time with us here.
You're very welcome.
I so appreciate the people who are willing to go the extra mile and read the acts and the jargon and the lingo and break it down for us in simple terms and create systems that actually support the average person. And so I am so grateful for Robinson and his father Fraser and for the Smith maneuver. It's such an interesting concept that I cannot wait to dive into further. If you are feeling like I am, certainly go pick up that book. I'm going to include a link in the notes for this podcast episode. Check out the website. Perhaps you can connect with a certified professional and learn how you can be turning your bad debt into good debt. If this episode resonated, if you know someone who's like, yeah, no, I know this person and they need to learn this information, please share it with a friend, someone who can, transform their debt as well. And if you found value from this episode, I invite you to write me a review on Apple Podcasts, share on your social medias. You can tag me at Andryanna G, and please make sure that you're subscribed. Come on back. We've got so many great conversations on The Juggle is Real coming up, and I can't wait to share them with you. Until the next one, take good care.